My girlfriend's family tried to scam me out of my life savings. So I quietly cut them off and used my connections to destroy their business. I've always been cautious with money. Growing up, my dad, who worked as a government official, drilled into me the importance of being careful about who you trust. So, when I started dating my ex-girlfriend a couple of years ago, I never thought her family would become the reason I had to put those lessons into practice. She was great, funny, caring, and always up for a good time. Her family, though, was a completely different story. From the start, I noticed they were the type of people who always had an angle. Her dad ran a construction business, and her mom worked as some sort of consultant. But what they really seemed good at was sizing people up to see what they could get from them. I tried to ignore it at first. After all, I was dating her, not her family. But it was impossible to avoid. The first time they asked me for something, it seemed harmless. Her dad mentioned needing a little help with his company's website. Since I work in tech, he figured I'd be the perfect guy to fix it up. I thought it would be a quick favor, adjust a setting here, update a plugin there. Instead, when I showed up, he handed me a massive to-do list. We're talking redesigning the entire site, setting up e-commerce, and fixing security issues. I told him straight up, this isn't a quick job. It's going to take hours. He waved it off, saying, it'll be good practice for you. Plus, family helps family, right? I didn't want to start drama, so I tried to compromise. I can help with some minor fixes, but anything beyond that, I'd need to charge for. This is basically a freelance job. His face immediately changed, like I'd just insulted him. I'm giving you an opportunity here, he said. But if you don't want to help, I'll just find someone else. I shrugged it off, but it left a bad taste in my mouth. Things only got worse from there. A few months later, they invited me on a family trip to this fancy resort. At first, I declined. I wasn't in the mood to spend thousands on a vacation, but her mom insisted they'd cover the cost. She kept saying, we're all family here. This is our treat. I eventually caved and went. The trip was fine, but the day after we got back, her dad handed me an itemized bill for my share. I laughed, thinking it was some kind of joke. It wasn't. We figured you could pay us back once you got your next paycheck, he said like it was the most normal thing in the world. You told me this was on you guys, I replied, trying not to lose my temper. It was temporarily, her mom chimed in. But you're working, so it's only fair. I flat out refused, and they got annoyed, calling me ungrateful. My girlfriend stayed quiet the whole time, which pissed me off even more. I should have left then, but I didn't. One weekend, her brother borrowed my car without asking. He claimed his car had broken down, and he needed mine for an emergency. I only found out later that the emergency was a road trip with his friends. The car came back filthy, with an empty gas tank and a scratch on the bumper. When I confronted him, all he said was, relax, man. It's just a car. I made it clear they weren't getting near my stuff again, but they didn't seem to get the message. Things really blew up during a family barbecue. Her dad started pitching me on this investment opportunity. He wanted to expand his business, new trucks, better equipment, a marketing push, and he thought I'd be the perfect guy to invest. I told him I wasn't interested. It's not just about money, he said. This is about building a future with us. If you're serious about my daughter, this is the kind of commitment you need to make. I tried to stay polite. I'm not in a position to invest in something like this right now. He didn't push it further that day, but my girlfriend wouldn't drop it. She kept bringing it up, saying things like, my dad doesn't ask for help often. This could be huge for us. You're being too cautious. I started feeling like I was being pressured from all sides, so I avoided going over to their house for a while. That didn't stop her dad from trying again. The next time I came over, he had a full-blown presentation waiting for me. PowerPoint slides, spreadsheets, a contract, the works. Her mom was there too, chiming in about how real men take risks for their families. I was done being nice. I already told you I'm not interested. This feels like a setup, and it's making me uncomfortable. Her dad looked pissed, but he backed off. Still, the whole thing felt off. Then came the moment that really flipped the switch for me. I got a call from my bank about a failed login attempt on my account. At first, I thought it was a scam, but something didn't sit right. I checked my laptop's browser history and saw my banking site had been accessed the same day my girlfriend had borrowed my computer. When I confronted her, she admitted everything. They just wanted to see what kind of savings you had. She said like it wasn't a big deal. You let your parents into my bank account. They didn't log in. They just wanted to check if you were serious about helping out. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You realize how messed up this is, right? She shrugged. You're overreacting. They just wanted to know if you could afford to invest. I packed a bag and told her I needed some time to think. When I told my dad what had happened, he was furious. They've been trying to bleed you dry from day one, he said. Cut them off now before they really screw you over. My dad's advice was always solid, but what he said next ended up being the nail in their coffin. There's something shady about all this. What do you really know about their business? It turned out not much, but a family friend of ours worked in the tax department, so I asked him if he'd heard of them. He laughed when I mentioned her dad's name. Oh yeah, that guy's been on our radar for years, he said. He's got a reputation for underpaying workers and shady bookkeeping. Hearing that, I started digging. I found complaints online from ex-employees, suppliers, and even customers. The guy was a total scam artist. I passed everything I found along to my dad's friend, and within a few weeks, their business was under investigation. Let me tell you, when they found out, the fireworks were insane. Her dad called me, screaming about how I'd ruined him. Her mom left me voicemails saying I was a vindictive little bastard. Even my ex tried to guilt me, saying I should have just helped them instead of destroying her family. I blocked them all. Their assets were frozen during the investigation, which meant no cash flow to keep things running. Suppliers started pulling out, employees quit, and clients bailed. The whole operation collapsed in a matter of months. I thought that would be the end of it, but they still tried to weasel their way back into my life. Her mom called me from a new number, pretending to be civil. We know things got out of hand, but we're family. We all make mistakes. Maybe you can help us rebuild. I cut her off. We're not family, and I don't owe you anything. Stop calling me. She started yelling, saying I'd regret turning my back on them. I hung up. Then came the rumor mill. They started telling mutual acquaintances that I had sabotaged their business out of jealousy. They said I was obsessed with proving I was better than them, and that I'd used my family's connections to set them up. A few people reached out to ask if it was true. I told them to look up the public records. The investigation spoke for itself. One of the most ridiculous moments came a few months later when my ex emailed me. She didn't apologize for anything that happened. Instead, she said I should consider giving her family some money as a way to make amends. Her reasoning? We let you into our lives, treated you like family, and now we're struggling because of you. If you really cared about me, you'd help us out. I didn't even bother replying. Her brother also tried to pull one last stunt. He showed up at my place unannounced, asking if he could borrow some money to get back on his feet. I told him to leave before I called the cops. The funniest part? Even after everything, they still acted like I was the bad guy. They couldn't seem to wrap their heads around the fact that their own behavior had led to their downfall. Last I heard, her dad was working odd jobs, her mom had moved in with a relative, and my ex was trying to piece her life back together. I have no idea where her brother ended up, and I couldn't care less. Looking back, I should have seen the red flags earlier, but at least I got out before things got even worse. The whole experience taught me to trust my gut and never let anyone guilt me into ignoring my boundaries. Some people see kindness as a weakness, and if you're not careful, they'll bleed you dry. It's been a while now, and I've moved on. I'm in a much better place, both financially and emotionally. I've kept my circle small and cut off anyone who brings drama or entitlement into my life. It's been peaceful, and that's exactly how I want to keep it.